Hey guys, what's going on? It's me, Jay. Yet another review, another WrestleMania review, the 33rd edition to on my Road to WrestleMania series, where I review each and every WrestleMania from 1 to 41, giving my opinion on each one. Well, here we are, WrestleMania 33, April the 2nd, 2017, live from Camping World Stadium in Orlando, Florida. And this one is hosted by the New Day. What are the main storylines going into this WrestleMania? Well, as of July 2016, the brand split is back on. Uh, they did away with the brand split, as you recall, 4 years before this in 2013. They finally said, you know what, this ain't working out. This is stupid. Let's just have one world champion. And that's what they had for a couple of years. But I don't know, I guess out of greed or whatever, they decided to split the rosters up again and give and introduce a new championship belt, the Universal title. And the inaugural champion was Finn Balor. This when Raw GM Mick Foley unveiled this title. This was the ugliest championship that I had ever seen. It was a humongous red monstrosity. Uh, Fans all over the WWE universe, which is now what the WWE is now calling its fan base, were aghast by this. You know what I mean? But this championship, the Universal Championship, becomes a centerpiece of one of the main storylines that we have. So now we have the WWE Championship and the Universal um, Championship. And initially, like I said, the inaugural champion was Finn Balor at that year's SummerSlam. But since he got injured, somehow it got passed. It got then passed to down to Kevin Owens. But another person is coming back, and that person is Bill Goldberg. Just like the Ultimate Warrior, he was announced for the game at first. So speculations were like, oh shit, Goldberg's coming back. So he does. And immediately, Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar, not forgetting what happened in 2004, Brock Lesnar announces that he wants a match with Goldberg. He wants to avenge what Paul Heyman calls the only blemish on Brock Lesnar's records is that of Bill Goldberg. So at Survivor Series 2016, Bill Goldberg faces Brock Lesnar. And in quick fashion, in a match that lasted 1 minute and 26 seconds, Goldberg defeats Brock Lesnar. And Paul Heyman is upset. They do a sit-down interview with Heyman, and he looked like because of the stress of Lesnar's Survivor Series loss, that he hadn't slept in weeks. Right? So they want to avenge this loss, naturally. But then at Fastlane, Kevin Owens drops the Universal Championship to Bill Goldberg. I'm sorry, at Fastlane. Yeah, Fastlane. Kevin Owens drops the Universal Championship to Bill Goldberg. So Bill Goldberg is going into this match with Brock Lesnar, the rematch from WrestleMania 20 as the Universal Champion. There's something at stake. Now both guys are back in the company. What other storylines are we heading into? Who's the winner of the 2017 Royal Rumble? Well, Randy Orton. Randy Orton wins the 2017 Royal Rumble, making him, it is his second Royal Rumble win of his career. And who will he be facing? Well, Bray Wyatt manages to capture the WWE Championship at Elimination Chamber. Now, the storyline with Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton is very unique because a lot of mind games are being played, particularly by Randy Orton, who suckers Bray Wyatt in by initially pledging himself to Bray Wyatt and initially saying that he wasn't going to face Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania. So basically, he becomes a member of the Wyatt family, an acolyte of Bray. But that was only to sucker Bray in. Then he goes to Bray's barn where he pledges to make Sister Abigail scream like she hadn't screamed before since she took her last breath. And Bray Wyatt burns the barn down. Randy Orton burns the barn down as Bray Wyatt watches. And Bray Wyatt is watching this in horror, thinking to himself, oh my God, like he's bugging out. So that's their match for the WWE Championship, Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton. Okay. What other matches? Roman Reigns, what's he doing? We get to Roman Reigns, who last year won the WWE Championship and was booed out of the building. WrestleMania 32, we talked about it. Now, he wants to challenge the biggest dog in the yard because he can't call himself the big dog if he doesn't challenge the biggest dog in the yard. And the biggest dog in the yard is The Undertaker. So, The Undertaker versus Roman Reigns at this year's WrestleMania, as well as another set match. So let's go into it. The pre-show matches are Neville defeating Austin Aries. Neville, the man that gravity forgot, more like the man that WWE forgot. This one, Mojo Rawley won against Jinder Mahal, all because Gronk jumped in. Rob Gronkowski, the football player, jumped in and attacked Jinder Mahal. And it's crazy because Jinder Mahal was like WWE champion this same year. Another pre-show match. Now Dean Ambrose is relegated to the pre-show. Dean Ambrose defeats Baron Corbin by pinfall. AJ Styles defeats Shane McMahon. Okay, now Shane is really back in the loop now. Shane is, I remember this because Shane is trying jujitsu, right? He's trying to do his MMA thing, coming in there hot, thinking that he could compete with AJ Styles, but AJ Styles gets the win. Now this next match was really entertaining. Chris Jericho, once again, reinvents himself. He comes up with this thing called the list. Like he would disagree with somebody and then he'd be like, oh, well, you made the list. Right? And him and Kevin Owens were initially friends. So the storyline going into this was pretty interesting. And I thought the match was great. I feel like Chris Jericho was on his Renaissance era here in 2017. But he lost. Also, he was in his Renaissance era character-wise, but he was really coming back sporadically as a part-timer to put people over. Bayley defeats Charlotte Flair, Nia Jax, and Sasha Banks. She retains her championship. Yeah, I was in a pizza parlor watching this with the pizza owners at this time, and I didn't care about this shit. And you know, they were still doing multi-women matches and everything. Things aren't going to change really, in my opinion, for the women until the following year when we get a guest celebrity entering the roster, and we'll talk about it when we get there. Uh, this next match, the Hardy Boys, Matt and Jeff, defeat Luke Gallows and Anderson, Cesaro, Sheamus, and Enzo Amore and Big Cass. To me, Enzo Amore was one of the most over superstars around this period of time, 2016, 2017. Uh, he would get the biggest reactions when he would come out and say his catchphrases. You can't teach that. There's this one um, segment with him, Charlotte Flair, Chris Jericho, and Sasha Banks. That's pretty hilarious. Okay, this next match, John Cena and Nikki Bella defeated The Miz and Maurice by pinfall. So once again, John Cena is with his girlfriend now, Nikki Bella, who he proposes to at the end of the match. Now, people love this. They put this on the level with Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth at WrestleMania 7. I don't know if I go that far because Nikki and John didn't end up getting married, but this was a pretty interesting mixed tag match, but I think it was overshadowed by the proposal. Seth Rollins defeated Triple H with Stephanie. This is when Triple H came onto that little moped bike. He looked really stupid and really weird. Thank God he put Seth Rollins over, on this. Then we get to Randy Orton defeating Bray Wyatt by pinfall. Yeah, this match was the worst match on the show. Like, Bray Wyatt did a lot of theatrics with like worms and other shit appearing on Randy Orton's face. It was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what am I watching when I was watching this? It was strange. Brock Lesnar wins the Universal Championship by defeating Goldberg. And this match was great. I loved this match, man. I felt like when I watched it, I felt like they more than made up for the atrocity that was the first Goldberg Lesnar one. Like, this was a match that was way better than the sequel. Because going into it, I was skeptical. I'm like, oh, well, they're a lot older now. They weren't good then. But I feel like the first time they didn't really put their best foot forward because they were both leaving. This time, Lesnar is there for the long haul, and Goldberg does come back other times. We'll be talking about him in the future, especially as it relates to WrestleMania 36. So, they did an awesome job here. A six-pack women's challenge where Naomi captures the championship. At this time, they were trying to put, I guess, Naomi to the back burner. But she got the win here by taking the title off Alexa Bliss, and this was the James Ellsworth era. Like, this jabroni on SmackDown Live, when Daniel Bryan was the GM on SmackDown Live, Like they kept putting this jabroni, James Ellsworth, you know, out there, and you're like, who the like? Why don't you get this guy out of off of our TV screens? It was the worst. Like I hated that whole era. And finally, Roman Reigns defeats The Undertaker. Now, Roman Reigns becomes the second person in WrestleMania history to defeat The Undertaker. And boy, was this match sad to watch. The Undertaker couldn't do much. He couldn't do much of anything. It was it was like clearly the dead man is now the old man. I mean, he could barely move. It was like, why is he doing this? You know what I mean? Just give it up, Taker. It was sad. You know what I mean? Like when The Undertaker first came out, right? When I first discovered him, right? In 1990 at Survivor Series 1990, we talked about it. In his first WrestleMania win against Jimmy Superfly Snuka. Snuka was the old man that could barely move, and it was sad to watch him go. And and Taker was invincible. Like I love Taker because he would just sit up after being pummeled. All Paul Bearer had to do was raise the urn, and he would just sit up. And the first time we saw him vulnerable was at Royal Rumble 1994. But by this point, time in 2017, time had just taken its toll on Taker, and it was time for him to go. It was time for him to, ride off into the sunset. He shouldn't have even done this match. I appreciate him, coming in, trying to put the younger guys over. Roman Reigns really didn't need it. You know what I mean? Like they already pushed him to the moon, as we talked about in the last video. So I don't really get why Taker decided to do this. And then this pay-per-view went on for so long. It was one of the longest WrestleManias in history. Like I said, I started watching when it was daylight out in the pizza because I watched this outside. I watched this in a pizza restaurant in my area that used to be here, right on Union Avenue, close to me. It used to be, and the owner was a wrestling fan, so he had it playing, and we're watching it, and we're both longtime fans. We both grew up with The Undertaker, watching Taker, watching him dominate in the ring, and just seeing this was like, why Undertaker? Like, just hang it up. So after the match was over, The Undertaker breaks character and he goes to kiss his wife, Michelle McCool. And then he lays his hat and his gloves in the middle of his coat in the middle of the ring, his ring attire in the middle of the ring, and he walks away. And at that moment, every longtime fan felt sad. You know what I mean? Because we knew that this would be the end. And I thought of all the memories that I had with Undertaker. You know what I mean? When I saw him come back, when I was there live at WrestleMania 20 as the Dead Man, when I watched him win the championship at WrestleMania 13. I wasn't watching it then, but I watched it on tape later. When I watched him at WrestleMania 25, the classic match with Shawn Michaels that we talked about. I watched him at WrestleMania 23 defeat Batista, WrestleMania 24, Edge, the end of an era match with Triple H at 28. Yeah, David says WrestleMania 10, Undertaker versus Lex Luger. Only in your fantasy booking, David, that happened. But all the, all the memories, you know what I mean, came rushing back when Undertaker did this. But what did this accomplish? Nothing, to be honest with you guys, because spoiler alert, The Undertaker will come back as the American Badass at another WrestleMania. So much, much like um, the John Cena and Nikki Bella proposal, this Undertaker retirement meant nothing. Nothing was accomplished. You know what I mean? It wasn't his retirement. You know, the laying of the ring attire in the middle of the ring meant nothing. You know, but for the time, it was emotional. Uh, and then the WWE released that video, Troubadour, which is the Undertaker's favorite song, a country song by George Strait, um, featuring a bunch of Taker's highlights. You know, the highlights of his career. And we really thought this was the end, but the 25th anniversary of, of Monday Night Raw needed another boost. You know, the Click coming back wasn't good enough. JR and King falling asleep at the announcing table wasn't good enough. So they brought back the Dead Man, and then unforeseen events happened in 2020 that we'll talk about, and they had to bring him back again. So this really wasn't the end for him, but it seemed like that at the time. And yet another lame, speaking of music, yet another lame musical performance that I missed, thank God, just like the Diddy one. People are like, oh, when we were at 29, me and my girlfriend, my fiance, was like, oh, you missed Diddy. He did all his songs and everything. You know, I'm like, oh, fuck that. You know, this one I missed too. This one I was talking to somebody. Pitbull came out with Flow Rider and a lot of other Florida-based rap artists and shit, and just stunk up the joint. Word to WWE: don't try to be like the Super Bowl and have halftime performances, because whenever you do, they suck. You know, Kid Rock, Diddy, fucking Run DMC, and Flow Rider, and Machine Gun Kelly at 28 was, you know, I'll let that slide. I like that a little bit, but most of them are just terrible. Like, don't do it, WWE. Like, you're not the Super Bowl. Like, football has a halftime. The wrestling doesn't have a halftime. You're creating one, and you're just taking away from match time that the wrestlers need to wrestle. You know what I mean? Like, the reason why a halftime show works for the Super Bowl is because, again, football has a halftime that's built into the game. Half times and breaks are not built into wrestling shows. You don't need that. You know what I mean? And they do this again at WrestleMania 40 with fucking Lil Wayne. We'll talk about it when we get there. You know what I mean? Like, this is terrible. Don't ever, you know what I mean? Like, this Pitbull and Flow Rider performance, it just made the fucking pay-per-view go on longer. And another highlight of this was the Hardy Boys' return. Man, when the Hardy Boys came out, fucking, I was like, oh shit. And then the pizza guy that was working, you know, he was the owner of the pizza shop. We're both watching it. He's like, I bet you he comes out as broken. Broken Matt Hardy his character had breathed new life into TNA. TNA, after the mass exodus of like Sting, Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, all those people left. It was like TNA was on its last breath. But Matt Hardy came in with the broken character, and he breathed new life into it, and he was actually getting over. But Vince McMahon was like, we couldn't have that. We got to take back that. We got to bring him in and then have him do the broken character and just bury his ass. Because he came in as broken Matt Hardy in WWE after this, and they did nothing with him. They buried him and had him like job out to Bray Wyatt and shit. So that was WrestleMania 33. It was a good show. I mean, New Day were pretty decent hosts. There was a lot of controversy surrounding New Day going into this pay-per-view because around this time there was a sex tape released of Xavier Woods having sex with Paige when they were both on the NXT roster, and photos of like Paige, Xavier ejaculating all over the NXT Women's Championship, and apparently she was passed around between him and Brad Maddox, man. So there was controversy going into this fucking show with New Day being the host. But hey, New Day was over at this point. New Day rocks. New Day rocks. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was a fun show, but it was long. A lot of the matches weren't very good, and the results didn't accomplish anything. Because, like I said, Nikki Bella and John Cena didn't get married, and Undertaker didn't really retire. You know what I mean? So now we move on to, and Roman didn't need the win. Like Roman beating Undertaker being this, because like David's saying, well, Brock Lesnar should never end the Undertaker streak at 30. Like the streak was already over. So when he lost this, what did it mean for Roman? Like it meant nothing. I mean, they already pushed Roman to the moon, and Taker already lost. So he just became the second guy. But look at it this way, though, David. We haven't gotten to this year yet, but we'll talk about it when we get to 40. But just bringing this up, Brock Lesnar has been removed from WWE history because of the controversy, right? He's been canceled because of the involvement with the Janelle Grant lawsuit. So technically, Roman is the only guy now that Brock Lesnar is not in WWE's history anymore. Roman is the only guy to have beaten The Undertaker at WrestleMania because Brock's doesn't count in WWE's official official tallying of it. So maybe it all worked out in the end. I don't know. But like I said, this just made people hate Roman Reigns even more. But going into 2018, something changes within the fans' perception of Roman Reigns, and we'll talk about it. That is a reason why he gained a lot of fans' sympathies. But that's 2017's WrestleMania 33. Next, we'll be heading back to the place where the streak ended. We'll be heading back to New Orleans, the Big Easy, for WrestleMania 34. And it will be a return of an Olympic gold medalist teaming with another Olympiad, two Olympic competitors teaming with each other in a mixed tag team match. And another boring ass main event that involves Roman Reigns is next. WrestleMania 34. Peace, guys. Thank you, David, for contributing. Next, WrestleMania 34.